Thank you, Professor Da Silva. And then I would like, Edna, you as someone who sits in the government, within the government, policy making, if you were to respond to them, what would you actually say is the actual need sitting in the government and in the renewable and Office of the Secretary of Renewable Energy?
Thank you for the question. From the discussions, as you're saying, collaboration is key. From a government point of view, we already have the strategy and roadmap which highlights what is needed, which is saying we have to have, actually people, given that knowledge, capacity in Kenya. So greatly, from where I stand, so many people do not know about hydrogen. And when you go tell them about green hydrogen, it becomes even worse. They're like, what exactly is it? Is it color green? So there's a lot of, out there, people are saying they don't know about it, they need to know about it, so that they're not scared about it, so that they don't think they were bringing for them some hydrogen bombs. And, someone goes like, is it a hydrogen bomb? What exactly are you going to do with the hydrogen? So that knowledge sharing, capacity building, for me, is key at the moment. And just, giving people an idea of where we're going and how we're going to do it as well, and what we're going to do with the hydrogen in place, so that they're not really out of there, not knowing what we're doing. So for me, government standing, I believe we need to make sure that everybody out there has an idea, not the full information, not the technical bits, just an idea of what we are doing and where we're heading with hydrogen for our country, especially for decarbonization, which is key at the moment. So yes, I think that's where we stand, and yes.
Thank you. And just to follow on to that, what do you think, in your view, sitting in the government side, do you think is what the government needs to address to open up the space, not just for research and development and collaboration, but also for investment?
Good question. For investment part, we are actually currently talking with Treasury, and also have Ministry of Agriculture, Industrialization. We have this one-stop shop that we actually came up with, and we're having those conversations, those round tables, to make sure that we actually come up with a plan, a TOR, on how to go about it. This means we have to bring on board our development partners, we have to bring our financiers, even the local banks. We're trying to bring them on board and talk to them and see how best do we go about hydrogen. Are we going for grants? Are we going for loans? And what part should the government play? What kind of incentives should there be? And if not incentives are going to be given, then how are we going to make sure that this is actually pushed forward? So we do have a round table where we're talking about this currently. We just need now to bring in the locals as well, so that we have a full picture of where we want to go, especially in the financing.
And just given Kenya's role in the region and being a leader in renewable energy, how do you see this in the wider region and the role that Kenya can play in the wider Eastern African region?
Yes, as you're right, we like to call ourselves, forward thinkers, and we like to brag that Kenya is actually leading in East Africa. So especially in the fertilizer direction, we think we could be, an international even producer of fertilizer eventually, if we go in that direction in the large scale. So in terms of having a regional pool for hydrogen, we are not yet there, but it's something that we've been thinking about, especially in the fertilizer aspect, where we can actually rope them in and tell them, if we start producing fertilizer, can you also become off-takers? Because like Uganda uses fertilizer, Tanzania uses fertilizer. So we are also thinking of how best to bring them on board, especially in that aspect of green hydrogen for fertilizer. But it's something that's still in the rollout of discussions in our minds, but we've not yet known how to really push that agenda forward and bring them on board. But it's something that we're thinking of.
Thank you, Edna. And now I'd like you to pose this to your co-panelists. So if we were to go back, let's say 18 months, 2 years, and we were conceiving the Just Green Hydrogen Africa project, what would you tell your 4 co-panelists to consider? And then each one of them, starting with Stefano, can give a quick response.
Oh, okay. Going back 18 months, we had a lot of discussions. Everybody had their own ideas. People were talking about exports, others were talking about local use. Others are talking about actually producing some of those items within Kenya. So for me, it's do you think Kenya can actually be a producer of some of these items, maybe with the electrolyzers or even the manufacture the fuel cells here, have partnerships with other countries where they come and bring, their instruments for us to actually produce the hydrogen locally. So is it something that we foresee, and is it something that's doable here in Kenya?
But I can try to answer, of course. According to, let's say, our work done so far, also with the support of Strathmore, what we can see is that for sure Kenya has a potential to be front runner in Eastern Africa for different reasons. First one is that, as we said, you have a lot of renewables, starting from geothermal one that is one of the, and hydropower that are two continuous operative renewables. So this means that we can think to operate electrolyzers and, let's say, for example, ammonia reactors, even not under an intermittency issue, okay? So this is, in my opinion, one of the key points of strength that you should think about, and that can make you really a front runner also for bordering countries. I think about Tanzania. I know that there are already some exchange of power between Tanzania and Kenya. So as there is already some trades of power, why not some trades of hydrogen in this sense? The Lighthouse project that we saw today about the Kenya Nuts company, is something simple in my opinion, but can be easily replicated. And the fact that you have it in Kenya, it's one of the single case really in the overall continent. So you have to do it. You have to promote it, in my opinion, because it's an effective case. If I may, one aspect that for sure must be promoted is, as we said also, the training of a workforce. It is a workforce that, as Mirela said, is missing even in Europe. And I fully agree on this topic of joint collaboration in education, promote cross-cooperation on, particularly as Mirela said, common issues. The one of the permitting is clear, I would like to say. I don't know how here in Kenya are the permits for renewable power plant, but really, we are in Italy the 4 years, so we are the longer. But again, these aspects of sharing know-how, setting up joint laboratories is something that I hope we can deal with very soon.
Thank you. Professor Da Silva?
Okay, what I wanted to say is that whenever I work with the government, and I think Edna knows that, I really, before going there and placing before them my request or a proposal to work together, I have made sure that there is a win for them. Because if the government's not there, I have problems. Government can do things that I cannot. If I give myself tax exemption, I go to jail. She can give me, says anything related with the solar, zero VAT, So I need them. I also know that they are most often they're not busy, so many things around. So whenever I go there to talk to Director Renewable Energy Engineer Isaac Kiva, I say, sir, I need this thing. I have, if you agree, here is the flash disk, just print, sign, and I go, And we have that level of confidentiality that both are looking to what's the best for the other. Thank you.
All right.
And if I may add, in my opinion, the government has to support us in the just transition. I mean, particularly once we have to engage, let's say, common people, general audience, but also to set up the rule of the game. So if the government states something like, okay, we accept this type of installation, but only with some specific social and economic and environmental sustainability, becomes, let's say, this approach becomes the driver. It's the only way to proceed. In Europe, we are putting some rules, for example, for what is really green hydrogen, and I think the government in Africa could take inspiration from our side, because I would like to say, Mirela, correct me if I'm wrong, but Europe on this is front runner, let's say.